Matt Schneidman, Jerry McDonald, Bay Area News Group, coming to you from outside the closed doors of the Raiders locker room. The Raiders, is this the last Raiders game ever at the Coliseum? We don't know, but it certainly felt like it with how everyone celebrated the win, a 27-14 win over the Broncos. The Raiders will now officially not have the number 1 overall pick, but if you saw any of the fans, any of the players after this game, they don't care about that. Pretty nice scene after the game. John Gruden ran right to the black hole. Derek Carr did a victory lap around the field. And Jerry, you said it earlier, you have missed 1 home game since 1995 here at the Oakland Coliseum. Compare this atmosphere after the game to some of the other ones at this stadium.
Well, it was unique because obviously there hasn't been a day like this. I mean, in 1981 when they left, were leaving for Los Angeles, fans weren't sure if they were going to go. And that day they lost 23-6. But today they happened to put together the best performance of the season against Denver. And Denver was no great shakes. But in terms of the Raiders' ability to push a team around and win all 3 phases of the game, that's a first for them. And I think they did it to a large part to reward the fans. They talked about it during the week. They weren't shy about saying it. And the fans that turned out today, are the ones that have stuck with them, through thick and thin. And, the ones that are angry at them are guys that didn't come today. So everybody that was here today was in a good mood. Maybe perhaps too good of a mood by the end of the night, but the police had to sort that out.
Right. I sat in the black hole, actually. I'll be writing about that for tomorrow morning. And there were, explicit chants going on targeted at Mark Davis. There were fans running on the field. There were security guards putting women in headlocks. It was people were chanting to storm the field, but there was a very, very heavy police presence. And after I was allowed on the field post-game while John Gruden was speaking in here, people actually kicked me off the field because security told me, if these fans see your green press pass and your phone and you're filming, they're going to be egged on to do something, and we don't want that. So they did a good job of taming the situation, but at one point I looked out on the field and it was like a landmine of dead bodies, just people laying in handcuffs on the field waiting to get taken off to the holding cell. So an eventful post-game regarding the game because, we do have to give the Raiders some credit. Derek Carr, 26 passes, no interception, so he's now at 325 straight passes without an interception. That's 10 games and over 1 quarter in addition. That's pretty impressive. And Doug Martin, his season high, I believe it was 21 rushes for 107 yards. Raiders ran more than they passed. We rarely ever see that. They really just controlled the offensive end.
The offensive line, this was their finest hour, and particularly the rookies, Colton Miller and Brandon Parker, who were saddled with the Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. That was going to be the big thing, whether they could control those guys. And it turned out the way to control them is to drive them backwards, run the ball, take the sting out. And both Miller and Parker, I talked to both of them afterwards, and they said that you could see it in the Broncos late in the game. Their body language changed. They just sagged. And you don't see it by the total offense figures. I think Broncos had a 300 to 273. But there's no doubt about which team delivered the blows. And speaking of delivering the blows, Carl Joseph was, lighting up chumps all day. Gruden called it his best game. And I think he has really come on at the end of the year. There was a point where I think there was a question of whether he would even be back on the team, and now I think they're looking at him as a future part.
Absolutely. I mean, this Raiders team, although still going to have a top 5 pick, and they're only 4-11, but it's hard not to be pleased with things you saw in this game if you're John Gruden and the Raiders, especially as they build toward the future with so many small pieces, or young pieces, I should say. But for Matt, Jerry, that's us. We got one more game this season in Kansas City next Sunday. I'll be there. And then obviously we have to look forward to who they're going to hire as their next GM, where they're going to play next season. The news never stops with the Oakland Raiders. They're always relevant regardless of their record. So you guys have a good night, happy holidays, and Merry Christmas.